on TV last night, at least nothing that I wanted to watch. So I ended up at the kitchen table trying to pay a few bills. I'm looking at my credit card statement and couldn't believe how much I spent on gasoline. I blame two things: the gas mileage of the Possum van and the fact that all the other lodge members have locking gas caps. So this week on Handyman Corner, I'm going to convert the Possum van to run on propane. You know, it's cheaper, it's cleaner, and it's much more readily available, because so far they haven't figured out how to put a locking gas cap on a barbecue. All right, first thing you want to do is mount the propane tanks on your vehicle. I say just put them on there like saddlebags. I mean, this here's my horse, 200 horse actually, so I don't need a lot of saddlebags. Sort of like Moose Thompson. All right, so what you want to do is get yourself a hunk of chain, put a propane tank on each end, and then just drape that over your vehicle. Easy, big fella. You might want to get a few tanks. You may go through some. All right, once you get the tanks on there, you could connect the propane to the engine using the proper fittings and couplings, you know, if you're made of money. But heck, if you're that rich, you might as well be running gasoline and forget the whole deal. So I recommend you go with regular garden hose. All right, now probably some of you are getting a little skeptical at this point. Like my dad used to say, you know, you can't mix right-hand and left-hand thread connectors. He never knew about the Handyman's secret adapter. So just take off as much of the garden hose as you need to connect them. Oh, geez, she's frozen here. That should be... That's a start, I guess. All right. All right, now we're... Okay, we're about ready to go here. Got all the hoses running right down into the carburetor. And then I just take this barbecue starter, jam that in through the grill, and when I fire that up, the whole unit should go. Okay, all I gotta do now is just open all the valves on the propane tanks, and we should be ready to hit the road. Oh, rusty here. You know, for safety's sake there, you might want to leave one of the valves closed. You know, if you run out of propane, you'll have a little extra. You know, if you're conservative. Mind you, if you're that conservative, probably don't want to do this project in the first place. Man, smell that propane. If you're a smoker now, you might want to extinguish your butt while you still have one. Okay, they're all wide open. Let's just fire her up. Left turn gear. So remember, if women don't find you handsome, they should at least find you handy. You know, I think it was Winston Churchill who said, never stand when you can sit, never sit when you can lie down, and never lie down without the remote. Sounds like my kind of guy. But I'm guessing he never had to cut his own lawn, what with him being King of Ireland or whatever it was. So this time I'm going to show you how you can cut your lawn without using any energy. Well, not any of your own energy. First thing you want to do, get yourself one of these self-propelled electric lawnmowers. I got this from Mike. He's good for getting stuff cheap if you don't ask too many questions. You know what they say? A good fence makes a good neighbor. Now, the electric units are not as good as the gas jobs, but they're quieter. And I find it hard to sleep in the same yard as an unmanned, self-propelled gasoline mower. Now, there's a bit of complicated math involved with this project. The lawnmower is going to wind around the wheel rim, and move itself across the lawn. But to prevent you from missing a spot, the circumference of the wheel rim has to be the same as the width of the lawnmower. The actual formula, I believe, is 2 pi r equals coupe de grace. Perfect. To calculate pi, just get yourself a pi plate. Okay, here's the easy part. Just plug the lawnmower into the extension cord and then tie it off to the front of the mower. The first time you cut the lawn now, you'll have a few obstacles you might have to get through. So mount an electric chainsaw on the front of the unit, and you want to plug that in too. Then you just turn them both on, and you're good to go. Might want to move the dog inside first. Okay, this pretty much looks like the center of the yard to me. Even if it isn't, it will be. Just wind the extension around the rim, and then go plug her in. You want to keep the cord good and high, though. Otherwise, your automatic lawnmower will have the same history as America. Just one revolution. Other than that, it's just like a computer. Plug and play. Sure hope it doesn't crash. Bernice wants me to take up the game of golf. I said no. I told her if I want to play 36 holes a day, I'll buy a harmonica. She didn't laugh either. So instead I went down to the local golf course, but it's way too expensive. $75 for a round, but only 20 for a cart. I know a deal when I see one. So instead of playing golf, I gave him $40, took 2 carts. But it turns out the joke is kind of on me here, because these carts are not the same. This one got a gas engine in her, but this one, it's electric and runs off of car batteries. Maybe that's why they were so cheap. I don't know. But you know that old saying? If life gives you lemons, throw them into a quart of vodka. I've been reading about these fancy hybrid cars that have a gas engine and an electric motor, and they switch back and forth between the two to give you great gas mileage and also save the environment. And I'm thinking, hey, I can combine these 2 golf carts and make my very own hybrid car of the future. All I have to do is take the engine out of the gas-powered one and add it to the electric one. That's a lot safer than taking the electric motor out. Nobody ever got electrocuted by a gasoline engine. Holy... Now, the fancy hybrid cars, they have computers and other things that I don't trust that decide when to run gas and when to run electric. I prefer the simple approach. I'm running them both all the time. I got the electric motor running this wheel, and I got the gas engine running the other wheel. So they're each doing half the work. Kind of like what your wife had in mind when she married you. Okay, that's the mechanics of my hybrid car taken care of. Now I want to do something about the appearance. Here again, I want her to look sharp and futuristic, but I don't want to spend any money. I already got $40 into the unit, and that's probably getting pretty close to all she's worth. So I'm going with a couple of these old school satellite dishes. You can pick these up pretty cheap during a windstorm. Nobody wants them anyway, because the new dishes are the size of a contact lens, and everybody needs to get rid of these babies. That's because people have no imagination. I mean, you drop an outboard motor into that center hole, you got a go-anywhere fishing boat. Well, here's one. See, the way these babies are designed, they focus all the satellite signals into the center. Well, they do the same thing with sound. Supposing you had a teenage daughter sitting in the driveway in her boyfriend's car. Wouldn't you want to hear everything that was going on? Well, all you have to do is stand in the middle and point the dish at the car, and you'll hear everything crystal clear. Holy... Is this a beauty or what, huh? And I attached the hinge assembly from a car hood to allow easy access for the driver. Kind of looks like a big oyster, doesn't it? And you want a decent latch on there, because if this oyster blows open at 80 clicks, you're shocked. She's sleek, isn't she? And she's aerodynamic. And thanks to the hybrid gas-electric engine configuration, she's also fuel efficient. See, even the headlights are innovative on this thing. Sure, they're the standard lanterns and so on, but instead of running off the car battery, they're running off that solar panel. Always thinking. So remember, if the women don't find you handsome, they should at least find you handy. I've seen the future, and it's me driving a big suppository. few years, a lot of people have given up on saving the world or trying to be a successful business person or a good parent, and are concentrating instead on trying to make a half-decent cup of coffee. They start with a blend of coffee beans from the South American mountains that have picked up a little extra flavor from the sweat of the donkey's back. And then they grind them all up in one of these fancy noisemakers. What the heck? Wonder where that wrench got to. All right, then they take the ground up coffee beans, put them into this special pot, add some water in there, you boil that all up. Then they take one of these plunger units, goes down inside there, and you squeeze all the flavor out of the coffee. Odd to see a plunger on the input side of the equation, isn't it? And then they have their cup of coffee. But maybe you can't afford all these special appliances. Maybe you've already spent your disposable income on college tuition or bail. You need a cheaper way to make coffee. All you need is a lawnmower with a grass catcher on it. Then what you do is you take your coffee beans, you make a pile of them on some smooth, hard surface, like a paved driveway or a sidewalk or the roof of your car. Then you set the blade as low as she'll go. Give the beans a quick buzz. I'm sure they'll return the favor later. Okay, now we take our coffee grounds, pour them into our coffee pot, and then comes the best part, the plunging. That's because we don't have to do it by hand. See? The piston and cylinder of an internal combustion engine use exactly the same mechanical principles as a coffee plunger. But wait a sec. Let me put my coffee mug under the exhaust pipe first. Coffee will go through this thing pretty fast. We've all been there, haven't we? All right, now you just pour the coffee into the carburetor. Pour it slow. If you stall this thing, it's a pig to get her going again. Another bonus with this is you can say to your guests, who wants more coffee? Get it? More. And here's another bonus. With the carbon monoxide mixed in there, this coffee won't keep you awake. Remember, women don't find you handsome. They should at least find you handy. You know, everybody in the whole Possum Lake area really loves a parade. We used to have them every month, and then the one-man band got married, and his wife won't let him wear the cymbals on his knees anymore. So this week on Handyman Corner, I'm going to show you how to turn this car into one of those calliopes, you know, a parade float pipe organ. Yeah, you know, an all-in-one mobile party music machine. Okay, first thing I got to do is sort through this pile of pipes and find ones that make the right note. All right, that's a B. Better make that a B flat. Yeah. Luckily I got a good ear, so I only had to test 25 pipes to get my 8-note scale. And don't worry, I didn't inhale. Now we can't just have these pipes coming out of the hood any old way. It's not enough to sound good. You have to also look good. No. Great. Me. Okay, now I got these pipes hooked up as exhaust headers on each of my 8 cylinders, so when that spark plug fires, it sounds that note. All I gotta do now is open the hood and hook up the distributor cap to this little keyboard here. You know, I'm just as glad that I had that little setback with the hood there because it gave me the idea of putting a manual choke on this thing, which I can use as kind of a tremolo control. It's quite affecting the amount of gas going to the engine. I can make the pitch and tone go up and down on the various notes, which I've connected, by the way, to my keyboard. All the spark plug wires come in here, so when I press on middle C, it only sends a spark to that cylinder. Okay, now all I gotta do is add my rhythm section. I call them hubcap rockets. Kind of like a Rolling Stones road tour. find you handy. Hey, I got great news. All-wheel drive and four-wheel steering is not just for the super rich anymore. Now the super poor can have it too, thanks to today's project on Handyman Corner. So I figured between these two K cars, they should be able to make almost one drivable vehicle. That's because a K car has no real frame to speak of and they're front-wheel drive. You could say it's spineless with a lot of dead weight at the back end. It's really the Dalton Humphrey of automobiles. First thing we gotta do is downsize each of these babies. It's the exact opposite of the way they downsize the government. We're gonna keep the part that works. Don't be shy with the duct tape on this job. It's the only thing holding the unit together. And there's nothing worse than nailing a speed bump only to have your back end break off and start chasing you. And there we have the makings of our four-wheel drive, all-wheel steering vehicle. And here's an added bonus. Stick the back ends together, you got yourself a dandy portable garden shed. Okay, the big jobs are all done. Now we just have the minor details of connecting the two sets of controls. Okay, now this took a bit of brain work, but I think I'm okay now. See, for both cars to work together, you gotta get the one doing the exact opposite of what the other one is doing. Kind of like a marriage. So I got the steering wheels hooked together so that when I turn this one to the left, the other one goes to the right. This baby turns so sharp, you gotta back off on the gas or you'll run into yourself. Same thing with the turn signals. I signal right on my end. But the real trick is the gear shift. I hook them up so that when I go into drive at my end, it goes into reverse at the other end. Oh, sure, I got a couple of problems, like I got no trunk, no brake lights, and no exhaust pipe. But that's a small price to pay to be driving with cutting-edge technology. So remember, if the women don't find you, it's a A lot of people have these ceiling fans in their houses. They're supposed to help with the air movement so that instead of your house having a couple of cold spots, it's cold all over. I don't really like the ceiling fans all that much. At the low speed, they cool off your soup, and at the high speed, they blow your toupee right into it. Mind you, they are handy for slicing fruit. But I believe I have a better use for ceiling fans. See, instead of using energy, my idea has these ceiling fans saving energy. Now, some of you may already be ahead of me on this. That just means you probably shouldn't be watching my show. I believe Lawrence Welk is on. So what I'm going to do is mount these ceiling fans onto this car, one on each corner, see? And then as they spin around, that's going to give me lift. Lift is very important, as any woman will tell you. But in this case, see, the lift is actually going to reduce the weight of this pig by about 1,000 pounds. Going to give it the same gas mileage as those little puddle jumpers they sell to old ladies and college professors. Now we just need some way to spin the ceiling fans. Can't just plug them in and drive away. I mean, even if you did have a long enough extension cord, you'd have to worry about pedestrians and lift bridges, and you'd always have to come back the same way you went. So instead, we're just going to take the wheels off this baby carriage. Shouldn't be too tough. If you have my kind of medical history, the wheels fell off your baby carriage years ago. Oh, it's a doll. Now, here's where the real genius comes in. No, I'm wrong. Okay, I'm going to use the car itself to power these fans. See, I'm going to mount a ceiling fan over each of the wheel wells, and then when the carriage wheel rubs up against the tire, that'll make the fan spin, even on the front wheel. And even though it turns like that, it's still the center of the top stays in the same place. Hey, how brilliant is that? You know, no wonder my parents questioned why I found grade 7 so hard every year. The only other tricky part is you got to take a look at the angle of the fan blades and make sure you mount them on the right side of the car, because one side's going to go one way and the other side's going to go the other way. And if you do it wrong, the fans will push down instead of lift, and that's going to kill your gas mileage. It'll be like driving around with Moose Thompson on your roof rack. I think we're good to go here. And this is way better than the EPA solutions to gas mileage. They just want you to go slow. Heck, that's what walking's for, huh? With my system, the faster you go, the faster the fans go, the lighter the car gets, the better gas mileage you get. I don't see a downside. Do you? Let's take her for a spin. Heck, let's take her for 4 spins. So remember, if the women don't find you handsome, they should at least find you handy. Oh, here's another bonus. Hitchhikers won't come near you. Every once in a while, the gods smile on us. It might be a gap-tooth smile, but who's complaining? See, we had this old, rundown, outdated hospital in Port Asbestos. Well, last month, they closed it, which they figure will save thousands of lives. They opened up a new, modern facility with real doctors who do things like wear rubber gloves, which can make all the difference. And the lucky part is, I managed to get my hands on all this used hospital gear. Now, I'm not a doctor, don't even play one on television, but I believe I can transform this old medical equipment into something cheap and useful. The exact opposite of what it's been so far. Now, this unit is called a gurney, which is a medical expression for horizontal wedgie. But the beauty of this baby is the adjustable height. I'm going to take her down as far as she'll go, because that gives me the lowest center of gravity, and when the horizontal wedgie kicks in, I won't have as far to fall. Now, the reason for the low center of gravity is because I'm actually building a self-propelled vehicle out of this junk. If you already figured that out, you're starting to think like me, and you might want to warn your loved ones. Now, of course, using the gurney tires as drive wheels would be stupid. So instead, I'm going with these high-precision, oversized rim wheelchair racing tires. Mount the wheelchair backwards on one end of the gurney, and make sure she's on there good and solid. Not only able to handle high speeds, but also high-speed accidents. Okay, got my drivetrain all hooked up. A couple of cordless drills mounted on some IV stands did the trick. And I need a little extra speed, because if people see those IV stands putt-putting along, they'll start calling me a slow drip. See, the beauty of going with electric drive is it's real easy to amp up the horsepower. The drills have got 18-volt motors in them, but these emergency hospital batteries are 24 volts each. Now, you may call that too much juice. I call it a good start. I'm hooking the batteries up in series, so I'm actually going to have 72 volts running through the drills. They'll go like stink, but not for long, which is fine with me. That's the same prognosis my doctor gave me. Now, for those safety nuts out there, I got this anchor attached to a chunk of surgical tubing. That'll give me a soft but effective braking system. I call it ABS, a big stretch. My wife just calls it BS. You can blow up a bunch of surgical gloves and use them as airbags. And when they're not in use, of course, you'll keep them in the glove compartment. Okay, we're just about ready for our test drive. I thought the doctor's outfit would fit in nice with the medical motif. At my age, you don't get to play doctor all that often. Plus, I figure if things don't work out, the emergency room doctors probably give me better treatment if they think I'm one of them. Speaking of hospitals now, it occurred to me that brakes are fine, but steering might also be a nice touch. So I wired up this cardiac defibrillator to control the amount of juice going to each of my drills. I took off the voltage regulator knob, replaced it with a steering wheel. So now when I turn right, most of the electricity goes to the right side defibrillator paddle and makes that drill go faster, so I turn right. No, that would be left. Okay, no, turn left. All right, okay, the steering is backwards, but I can remember that. Our roads are pretty straight anyway. And that's how you make an exciting vehicle out of a bunch of old hospital junk. The beauty of this car is if you do get in an accident, you can actually treat yourself until the medics arrive. So remember, if women don't find you handsome, they should at least find you handy. Clear. A lot of young people ask me about the entrepreneurial spirit. They want to know what it is. Well, it's not the kind of spirit you find in a bottle. Although, believe me, many of us have looked. Now, the entrepreneurial spirit is about taking a problem and turning it into an opportunity. Now, you may have noticed I got a couple of flat tires on my 4x4. Actually, there's two more just like these on the other side. Now, I'm going to take this problem and turn it into an opportunity. Oh, yeah. I'm going to use this vehicle to generate enough money to buy me a whole new set of tires. Sound impossible? Hey, it's on TV. It must be true. And now, through the magic of innovation and lack of alternatives, I've turned my all-wheel drive vehicle into a 4-station wood shop. Oh yeah, now see, I can make products out of wood that I can sell to people and make enough money to buy myself a half-decent set of retreads. And then if I want, I can continue on as a manufacturer, maybe go public with an IPO, make millions of dollars in profits, and move on to my next investment. But I'll probably just get the tires. Now we come to the next most important step of the entrepreneurial process, deciding what to make. So I researched around, found out what local people wanted and what they could afford. I've decided to make duct calls, mainly because I know what a duct call looks like. Plus, I'd be selling mostly to men, which I think is easier. As long as something works, men will buy it. They don't care what it costs or what color it is. Heck, even if it doesn't work, men will buy it. Take a look in your driveway. Okay, first of all, I go to my cutting station. I'm going to cut this to roughly the length that I want. Yep. All right, now what we do is we take her down to our lathe area there, where we're going to round off the corners a little bit. Now, I've already mounted a piece of wood on there to kind of speed up this demonstration. Okay, once I got the lathing done, I got my basic duct call, but you know, just a little too rough for today's discerning customer, so now I got to go to my sanding station. This is just really a piece of fine-grained sandpaper mounted onto a record album as a backing. Actually, I use Nat King Cole on that. He's extra smooth. And then just do your little sanding. Wow. Perfect. All right, now to turn it into a real duct call, I got to drill a hole through the darn thing, and for that, I'm going to use my drilling station here. Just slowly, Peter. You know, you might want to use safety goggles on this, or maybe even some cast iron gloves. And it's just that easy. So you entrepreneurs, remember, if the women don't find you handsome, they should at least find you handy. Should also mention that 99% of new businesses fail in their first year. This week on Handyman Corner, we're going to show you something that you can do with that old wreck of a car that you may have sitting out on your front lawn, say, or perhaps wedged into the garden shed. Now, up here at the lodge, of course, when a car gets too dangerous to drive, we just sell it to another member. But what do you do when a car literally falls to pieces? Sell it as a kit car? A lot of people would see this big pile of crap and figure, well, this is no longer a viable means of transportation. But a lot of people are not me. I look at this stuff, I say with a little elbow grease and some imagination, I can build myself a free 10-speed bicycle. Golly, if the motor hadn't seized up, I could build a moped. All right, the first thing you need to make yourself a two-wheel bicycle, of course, is two wheels. I got 4 to choose from, so I threw the 2 ugly ones away, and I got Harold's toothbrush and cleaned all the roadkill out of the treads of these. But, you want to make sure that there's no leaks in these things, so what you do is you take the tire and just stick her down into a bucket of water and watch for the bubbles coming to the surface, sort of like Old Man Sedgwick in Possum Lake. I'll just put that down there easy as pie. Oh, it's a little small for that. All right, well, we'll assume there's no leaks there. Now, I'm gonna need to make a frame for the bicycle. By golly, this will work right here. The exhaust system out of the unit. That should be fine. Oh, no wonder gas stations are so messy. All right, take a hacksaw, and you want to start hacking this thing up. You'll need 3 2-foot lengths and 2 3-foot lengths. So that's 3 2s and 2 3s, which is a full house, I believe. Oh, golly. Boy, hacksaws are fragile things, aren't they? All right, so once you got your pipe cut, you got enough pieces now to start building your frame. You know, you might just want to file those edges a little smoother, especially if you ride a bike in shorts. Now, to put all the pieces together, you can use stove bolts, or you could use a welding torch, or you could use, that's right, the Handyman's secret weapon, duct tape. Another roll there, Harold. And there you have it. And if that isn't a real head turner of a bicycle frame, I don't know what is. Now, this muffler is a dandy place to hold water for you long-distance riders who can't hold your water. And you're probably thinking to yourself, what am I going to use for pedals? Here we go, here we go. How about window winders? And then for a chain, now, not much of it. Oh, here we go, here we are. We'll just run a fan belt from the pulley up to another pulley, and there we go there. And as far as the gears go and whatever, cars are full of gears. Gears everywhere in a car. That's not going to be a problem. You see, the secret is to make do with what you have. This is not just recycling, it's bicycling. So I'll get this all rigged together, but it's going to take a little while. Why don't you go back to the show, and when I got her all done, I'll have you come back in here and I guess do a little showing off. And there you have it. She's pretty well all rigged up. Looking pretty good, isn't it? Got the horn on here. I call that the Matterhorn because it's a mountain bike. And I put reflectors all over the back and so forth, so you can do some night riding. And I've got the light on the front here. And remember the old-fashioned generators you used to have on your bike? Well, actually, that one is an alternator. But she's pretty well set to go. Got a little wind indicator right under the seat. Makes sense. And let's just take her for a spin. Okay, that muffler's still a little bit warm. Got to watch for that. I guess we'd mount her something. I'll just climb right up. All right, well, I'm going to tighten a few things up. Maybe I need another couple of rolls of duct tape. But I'll take care of that. Maybe thin out the frame and what have you, and fix her all up. And I think she'll look quite a bit different by the time I do this properly. I'll just make cut, and that's all it takes. Got a little extra time and effort, and I've made this into a really lovely 10-speed bike that coincidentally looks exactly like Harold's bike. That's how good of a job I've done. Right down to the name on it and even the dents. It's just amazing. I'm pretty proud of that. Anyway, remember, if the women don't find you handsome, They should at least find you handy. Harold, we've traded bikes, by the way. Harold.